Hi, I'm Jack Davis and welcome to another guided meditation. This episode's going to be really interesting because today is very normal for me. I woke up, I've been quite sick, and I've felt quite caught in a lot of the influences and energy around me. And I want to speak about the reality of living life in this moment of history and the challenge of integrating what we might know and experience with our everyday reality. The theme that's coming through for me quite clearly is unity consciousness. This is something that I have experienced on high-dose psychedelics. It's something that I experience quite often in many aspects of my life, but unfortunately it's not something that everyone around us in the world embodies. And it's also not something that we embody all the time or very often. Too often, we seem to be caught in a very self-centered mindset, and it can come across in a really bitter, more overtly evil manner. Let's say if we were harming other people or hoarding resources for ourselves. But it can also come across in a more unintentionally negative, self-focused manner. So this might be when you're riddled with anxiety or fear or resistance. And ultimately it's the same thing. It's you being too focused on your humanness in a way that's blocking out everything else around you. I think it's easy to be pure and love and light when the material circumstances around you are going well, when you're not faced with conflict, and when you're ultimately taken care of. Hi, I'm Jack Davis and welcome to another guided meditation. It seems like the themes that are going to be coming out today are unity consciousness and unconditional love. These are quite big topics. They're very big energies, let's say. They really come to the heart of what you'll see in the spiritual space, and it's at the heart of every non-dualistic philosophy and every teaching really that's going to broach enlightenment. There's always somewhere, whether it's said directly or not, where there's an openness and an opportunity to experience yourself as all of reality, and therefore to transcend the need to identify so much with your self-centered humanness. Now, self-centeredness can come across in two main ways. You can be self-centered in a way that's very overtly evil. You're harming others, you're restricting the freedom of others. You can also be self-centered in a way that's more soft. So let's say you're anxious or you're riddled with fear. It can also hold you back from opening up to something like unconditional love. Now, I don't think it's realistic to live the rest of your life in an incredibly high vibrational state of unconditional love. I would define unconditional love as the absence of separation between yourself and any other aspect of life. It doesn't mean that you need to consciously make sure you never harm another bug again and chastise yourself if you ever make a mistake. It just means that even if you're having a disagreement with someone else, even if you have a different political perspective to someone else, even if you see people out there in the world who you believe are truly evil, maybe they're killing people, you don't need to take on in yourself some sort of a antagonistic, opposite energy, separative energy against them. It's very tempting to do so, and I understand it. It's good that good people stand up for what is right, but many good people have stood up for what is right and created a lot of havoc and caused a lot of violence and harm. So it's a very dangerous game. And what is healthier is to respect yourself and respect your opinion, but not to throw bile and vitriol and poison back at whatever other entity you deem is acting in a way that is not consistent with your Values, let's say. Now, it's not just values. There is a core truth at the heart of reality that one can experience. And sure, it's not you as a separate entity experiencing it, but it's the thing that we often call enlightenment. It's difficult to put into words. It's a little bit of a rabbit hole, but to keep it simple, I know that if I was to harm someone else, fundamentally it would be me in them experiencing that suffering and experiencing that harm. That comes through very clearly in Buddhism. It comes through very clearly in any spiritual teaching that encourages you to be kind to animals, any spiritual teaching that encourages you not to do harm on others or to care for your neighbor. These are very common themes, and it's the golden rule, isn't it? It's been said and shared many, many, many times across humanity. It's very difficult to maintain that when the world around you isn't so pure and isn't so light. And I can speak from experience, it's quite frustrating to be on a very sincere, let's say, journey of, let's say, exploration, where you're encountering these possibilities, unity consciousness, unconditional love, and then to be stuck in the everyday reality where people are caught in their own experience. And most people aren't evil, but most people are stuck in their own sense of self and their own dissatisfaction. And that can carry through to a lack of empathy or a short temper or unnecessary conflict. I experienced this in my job. I experienced this in all kinds of contexts in my life. There are people I've met who, I think what's important is to not reflect back whatever is thrown at you. I want to talk a little bit about self-image and criticism. There are something like 8 to 10 billion people on Earth at the moment, and not everyone is going to like you, and not everyone is going to understand you. And it's very likely that there are people out there who will construct an image of you that is not consistent with how you see yourself. What I feel compelled to share is that being stuck in that kind of a self-centered state where you're concerned about what others think of you and what others are saying about you, it's only going to cause you suffering, and it's only going to take you further away from unity consciousness and unconditional love. I'm not going to demand that you forgive these people. I've had people say interesting things to me in all kinds of contexts, and I often don't agree. And I often think that it's coming from a place that is deeply warped and very far from the truth. But if I am to take that comment on board and really churn it over in my system, I am then in a very deeply egocentric state of consciousness. And I'm very far away from what I want to share on this channel, which is essentially what it might be like to live as a collective where there is a lot less ego getting in the way of us seeing the innate interconnectedness of all life and living in a way that reflects that. It's a tried and true phrase, but you need to be the change that you want to see in the world. And the buck needs to stop with you. If not you, who? If not now, when? It's difficult, but those of us with this kind of a state of consciousness that's open and is capable of letting things go, we have to be the ones to let things go. If we just play this game of an eye for an eye, we're repeating the same cycles. And the world is in too much chaos at the moment. There's too much conflict. There's too much polarization. Everyone has very strong opinions in every direction. And there's nothing wrong with having different opinions, but there is something wrong with being very bullheaded and very unwilling to see the intelligence in others and being very fixated on a very limited perspective on reality. You still need to uphold what you believe in. You still need to stand up for yourself. You still need to protect yourself when necessary and hold firm in what you know is true. But you do it without reciprocating the same energy that's been passed your way. In the spiritual space, this will be called transmutation. Something somewhere in the external world will be in such a way that is charged negatively. Let's put it that way. You're capable of receiving it and really being with it for as long as is necessary and letting it transform out of that state of negativity into something new. And you don't have to do it consciously. You don't have to think that you're magically influencing the way that things go. It's just something that you can experience if you decide not to bottle things up, not to take on that energy in a way that's going to impact you negatively, and not to release that energy in a way that's going to impact others negatively. It is a service. It's actually a service to our collective consciousness to take on vitriol, abuse, anything negative, and to not let it hold you down and to not push it out on anyone else. So if you're experiencing these things, then I'll give you that little gift. You're actually helping the world by experiencing those things. Age is not a significant factor, but we are certainly seeing that different generations have different states of consciousness. For instance, the younger generation at the moment is a lot more sensitive, and some older individuals would say that that's because they're weak. I don't think that's true. I think we're moving in a direction in life where we don't need to be living and acting in the same way as was necessary in an earlier period of our development. And you could say that softness and kindness are better suited to where we're going as a collective. So there's nothing wrong with that.